All right, welcome back to our second episode of How to Survive My Dance Studio Life with Tiffany Henderson. I'm Amanda Scott, and I work with Tiffany on Twinkle Star Dance. But we're excited to just bring our conversations that Tiffany and I share on the phone or over the web daily, and just give that knowledge, the wealth of knowledge that Tiffany has from running 7 dance studio locations and being in business for 20 years with you. So let's go ahead and get started. How are you today, Tiffany?
Oh, I'm doing great. Good to talk to you, Amanda.
Yes. So I know we kind of wrapped up our summer conferences at the Energize Conference in Chicago. And you had the honor of closing out the weekend. And you had a great message for the dance teachers and studio owners that were there. Just really reminding them that they're the decision maker in their business and they have all the power. So can you expand a little bit on this for maybe some of our listeners that weren't able to join us or who maybe just need a little extra encouragement as they're starting their new season?
Yeah, sure, Amanda. It's been a pleasure of mine this summer to share this message with studio owners and dance teachers. And it's something that I think about January this last year, so that occurred to me because I see a lot of people writing online about, the struggles that they have as a studio owner. And there's a lot of, we get pushed around pretty good, right? This student left, this parent is upset, things like that. And people would write in, don't worry, look at all the great things you're doing. It's just one. And I'm sitting there and I probably had a hard day because I still have hard days, even though it looks like, I've got all these students and it looks like I'm sort of figured it all out, but I really haven't because there's still hard days. And it occurred to me that, we've all been given this message that we hold on to this very stressful job as a studio owner, where sometimes we are mistreated and disrespected. And we do that because of all the good things we are doing for the dancers. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Of course, we're doing great things for these dancers. But when we really think about it, is that the price that we, the studio owners, get for dedicating our lives to their well-being? It just occurred to me like, wait a second, this doesn't seem fair. Because here we are working late or coming in on a Sunday or giving everything we have to these kids and these families and also our employees. And in the end, maybe aren't, like I said, respected, or we feel like people are leaving and things like that. And it's really hard for us. So I was trying to sort of rectify this in my mind, like, okay, wait a second. I don't want to I love my job. I actually really love my job, but why do I love my job? And what kind of motivation do I have to stay in it? And we all need motivation each year to continue. And we spoke about that in our previous podcast about inspiration. But it occurred to me that what we really needed to get excited about is what we, the studio owners, have accomplished. What we've actually done. And because we need that motivation to keep going. I mean, everybody's lives are hard. It's not just the dance studio owners' lives, but we're so personally connected with our customer and you can't do a good job unless you are personally connected. So, I was just struggling with this, I'm also somebody who, I consult with a lot of studio owners and, what do I say to them when they're like, does this ever end? Because the answer is no, it doesn't end. But maybe if we change the focus from worrying about what the students are doing, what their accomplishments are, and focus on our own and, really look at our lives and we come home each day and say, wow, look what I accomplished today. And then as I was writing that, I was thinking, wow, this is interesting because I think a lot of women don't really tout their own success because maybe by doing so, they're not as well liked or they're seen like they're being boastful in some way because I feel like society tells us to attribute our success as women to other people. So other people help me, So when I was thinking about all this stuff, I was like, wow, I think this is a message that's maybe been there, it's underlying, but maybe needs to be shouted to the rooftops because this could help everybody. get through a hard year.
Yes. Yeah. And I, kind of talking with the other studio owners and stuff that we've gotten to meet over the summer, just doing different conferences and events and things like that. I think the idea that they could embrace their own power and say, like, yes, I did accomplish something as a business owner, personally or professionally, and that was because of my hard work and my time and my effort. It was interesting. People would almost walk away like a few inches taller and prouder and, feeling more confident in themselves as the decision maker in their business. So I definitely think that even if that message is out there, I think, making sure that we continue to carry that all the way through this season is really important.
Yeah, I think, it's really true that the most stressed out people are the ones who feel like they don't have any choices, right? They're stuck in their situation. They can't do anything about it. It's like they're just stuck there. And while this might be the case for a lot of people, sadly, it's really not our reality as studio owners. And you might think it is, because the decisions that you might be making that keep you stuck in the same place are to please someone else, to please the parent, to please the student, to please the employee. But we're putting ourselves last. And so when we realize that we have the power to make all the decisions, and we're brave enough to do so and stand up and say, no, we're going to do it this way because it is better, number one, for me as a studio owner, and number two, for the health of the business, then we become more confident. And this is built over time. And that bravery and the strength, that meeting difficult situations with bravery and strength over time creates more confidence. And that kind of confidence actually leads to more success. Because when you talk to a parent and they are asking, why are we doing it this way? It's new. Why did you make that change? And you say confidently, because of this, or this is going to be great, and you meet them with your eyes and your smile, then they say, okay, she believes in what she's doing. And I think what's happened, it can happen to you over time, where you feel like if people are leaving your studio, that it's a personal attack, and it's not. They're just choosing something else. So we have to constantly remind ourselves of the power that we have, our bravery and our strength, and how cool it was that we took the risk to start our own business, and at the same time maybe starting a young family, or maybe you already had a family and now you're having to juggle that, and you take all the responsibility for everyone that you teach and employ. And that makes you pretty awesome. And there's not a lot of people that would do that. They prefer to just go work for somebody, and that's fine. So we were the ones that stood up and said, we'll take the responsibility. And in doing so, you get to make the decisions. And I see a lot of people making decisions that just keep them in their same place. Like they're somewhere right now, and they'll say to me, oh man, I'm really struggling with this. And I'll say, try that. Oh, I couldn't do that because so-and-so would be upset. So it's really fear that's holding us back from making our lives and our studios what we want them to be. So, I think the message that you have the power, you can make this decision, that breeds more confidence over time, will really help you grow. And as you're growing, in the next year, this time, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I took that leap. I'm so glad I took that leap to excuse that family, or to change my schedule, or have that hard conversation with that employee, because now everything is better because of it. But it was really, really scary going into it,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like, even just coming from it, on a personal level, I know you and I were chatting afterwards, and kind of how women don't talk about money, or if they make money doing what they love and that kind of stuff. But one thing that you said that really resonated with me is that money equals choices. So, as a studio owner, that's something where if you're, needing to mark up a costume or a competition fee entry or something, you do need to make that, money on that, because that is going to ultimately give you more decision-making power in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing to hold us back is fear. And the biggest fear I would say most studio owners have is lack of money. And so it's sort of like this this catch-22, right? So we're fearful of making the choice of the change because we don't want to upset anybody. But at the same time, it keeps us where we are. And now we still are in the same revenue position or financial position where we can't make any other new choices. Hire the new admin, hire the different teacher, cut back on our teaching, whatever it is, it's going to get us to the next level. And so, I think it's as simple as just saying to everybody, you have this power because you do. And actually, someone has to make these decisions. They really do. And so we may not have even ever known that about ourselves. Maybe no one ever told us we were strong or said these things, And so because we really, as women mostly, see our success as what we do for other people. I'm helping this child. I'm helping my husband. I'm raising my family. And you know what? I love my family more than anything else. And that is probably my proudest accomplishment in my life, is having my own family, of course. But also, I want to do things for myself, and I want to be an example, for my daughter, who I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she watches me do difficult things daily and have hard conversations. And we talk a lot about what's going on at the studio daily. And I think it's really changing her. She doesn't let anybody push her around. She definitely stands up and says what she wants to say. And also not just your own children, but maybe the students you have. These young women are looking at you. And so are you leading with confidence, and are you professional? Are we down in the drama? Or are we up above it? Are we up above it and we're rising to the occasion because we have things we want to accomplish? So that power is just enormous. To talk to them about, a lot of times they'll say, you ask who wants to be a dancer and nobody raises their hand. You ask who wants to be a studio owner and they all raise their hand because their example is you. And so maybe they're not going to own studios, but maybe they're going to go run, be CEOs or leaders. And, right now is the time to capture the energy and the passion for making young women leaders of the next generation. And I think that's really exciting. And when you think about that, then it doesn't really matter if someone doesn't like your policy on dress code or one of your star dancers leaves. Because when you look at the overarching picture or overarching message or impact that you can make, and you see it as creating female leaders, that's really, really awesome and amazing.
Yeah, and I think, during your speech, you talked about the finale that you guys did at the end of the recital this year. Can you share that for our listeners that weren't able to be in the room? Because I just feel like that really illustrated the point of modeling that example, and then almost, seeing it very visually, your dancers kind of getting that from your behavior and your power.
Yeah, so it was a really neat thing that happened. We gave our students, and they were all female in this dance. It was for our opening of our finale, a choice of one word that described themselves to put on the front of a t-shirt as the costume. And their choices were caring, kind, brave, strong, and smart. So they could choose whatever they wanted. I didn't give much thought to this. I just said, oh, this would be really cool. And we sent out the Google form and then they did it. And then a few weeks later, I didn't see what they chose, but I got to see them in their t-shirts. And I was like, two things: proud and surprised to see so many of them choose brave, strong, and smart. And the reason, obviously, that I'm proud is because that's how I want them to feel about themselves, because that's what's going to make the most impact in our world. But secondly, I was surprised because I know that young girls or females have always been taught that their worth is what they do for others. So they're way more comfortable referring to themselves as caring and kind. I'm a nice girl, right? Be nice. And although that's fantastic, right? We already have that. We're already doing that. But I was really, really proud that our dancers were starting to identify as two things. They can be nice, but they can be powerful. They can be caring, and they can be strong. Because we're not just one thing. We don't have to be one or the other. We can be powerful and brave and nurturing and inspiring at the same time. That's what makes females really the kind of the best, because we have both qualities. And I think one is more, developed than the other. But I feel like we need to also develop that other part of us that's more assertive and powerful and brave and shows more strength. Because I think when you put those two things together, it's unstoppable.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes too, it's just a matter of someone telling you that you have the power and that, you are the decision maker in your business or in your life even. Because I know, you standing up and saying that to people afterwards, everyone was just, kind of coming over and saying, thank you. I needed to hear that today. Or I know there was a room full of people, but it was almost like you were speaking to me individually in that moment. I just needed to hear that I was ultimately the one that was in charge. So what if someone is, back at their studio now and they know they have a tough decision to make, maybe they need to dismiss a family from their business, or they're trying to figure out, should they be teaching or not teaching this year? What would you say to them to just kind of encourage them that, the choice that they're making is their choice and that, ultimately you support them in that?
Yeah, I think that I've been there before, and that this is a decision or this is a conversation or a conflict that you have to meet head on. And sometimes it's a lot easier to just brush it under the carpet and say, let's just move on. Maybe it'll get better. You cross your fingers. But you're listening to this right now, as you said, and you're thinking, you know what? I need to do this because this is what needs to be done. And you're right, I do have the power. But going into that decision or that conversation or whatever it is that you're making or having to do, I want you to think about your future self. I want you to think about what it's going to be like with this change. And that vision or that idea of your future self has to be greater and better than the fear is wider or vast. So, we have like, okay, if you ask somebody, okay, so if you let this family go, this family they're the star dancer, but they're really, unfortunately, making your culture at your studio just totally negative. If you let them go, how does that feel once they're gone? And they'll say, oh, it would feel so great. I'd feel lighter and everyone would get along. It would be so wonderful. And then you say, why don't you do it? And, oh, because I'm so afraid. What if I do it and everybody else leaves? All this fear. I don't want to have that conversation. What's going to happen? So don't focus on the fear. I want you to focus on the future. Focus on what it looks like. Focus on the reason why you were going to go through that fear. You have to walk through the fire to get to the other side. That is a better future for you and for everybody else there. So for me, I like to write things down. I'm like old school. I carry a notepad with me everywhere I go. And sometimes I don't even, maybe I'll go back and read it, but sometimes I don't, just write it down. But write down the reason why you want to make this change. What does the future look like? And then maybe write down your real fears. And sometimes when you write down those fears, you'll look at it and go, well, that's not even realistic. There's no way I'm going to lose all my students, and there's no way this is going to happen, but it's in our mind. So this is a behavior that maybe you're going to have to do. What I can offer you is that there's no magic fairy that's going to come down and help you with this. I'm trying to be your magic fairy by giving you, motivation and, I'm trying to give you encouragement for this. But in the end, this is why you're so brave, because you have to make this decision on your own. There's no one else is going to do this but you, which is why I told you that you're already brave. You already have this strength because you've already been doing it. So remember, don't forget about your power. Think about your future self, and you have to go through that fear, and then soon you'll find out that, okay, I did that once, and when you do it one time, the second time is a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tiffany. I think, that's something that everyone needs to hear, no matter, if they've already made it through the tough decision or they're in the process or even just starting to think about it. It's nice to have that in the back of your mind. I have the power, and just kind of using that as a mantra. If someone wanted to connect with you, afterwards, they want to get in touch with you, find some more inspiration, where can they find you?
Absolutely. Yes, they can find me on Facebook at Tiffany Henderson. I'm also, my email address is tiffany@tiffanydance.com. And I would love to connect with anybody listening to this. If anybody, is struggling with something, I'm happy to give my feedback. I think, in the summer, it's so fun. We get to meet so many studio owners and teachers, and then we go back to our studios. I like to remain connected throughout the year. So absolutely reach out, and I'm happy to help.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany.